Hi, in this video we are going to find the slope given a table, right? We are given a table and we need to find the slope. At first, we need to know what is the slope formula, right? So we know that there are multiple formulas for the slope, right? Remember, we covered a video where you're given 2 points, right? And there's a slope where you're given the rise and given the run. And this one, you're given the y and x, right? So remember, to find the slope, right? It's m equals to y over x, right? Y over x. Or we can also say that it's rise over run. That's when you're graphing. But particularly, we are going to be using y over x this time, since we have over here, we have the x values here, and then we have the y values here. All right, let's start with number 7. When you are given a table like that, the first thing we need to look at, you need to look at the number from the top and the bottom, right? So we see that how can I get from -1 to 0? The only way I can get from -1 to 0, if I add 1, right? If I add 1 to -0. So let's say that we add 1 over here, right? Watch this carefully. If I add -1, +1, you see that you will get 0 on the bottom here, meaning that from here to there, it has to be +1, right? How can we, now we're done with the first one, the first two, now we need to get from here to there. How can we get from 0 to 1? To get from 0 to 1, we have to add, right? We have to add 1 from 0, right? In order to get +1, right? So we have to add +1 here. And you notice that this one's easy now, right? There's a pattern. You see that we have to add 1 here in order to get 2, right? So now we're done with x. So we see that that sign over here is your x sign, right? So we can go ahead and we say that, right? Since you see that the 1 keep repeating, you can say that your x value is equal to 1, right? So now you are going to work on the y side, right? So watch this carefully. You have 8, you have 6 here. How can we get from 8 to 6? How can you get from 8 to 6? The only way you can get from 8 to 6, if and only if you subtract 8 from 2, right? I mean 2 from 8. Right? So let's say that you have, it's 8 minus 2, that will give you 6, right? So meaning that it has to be -2. And now we need to check, how can we get from 6 to 4? It's also going to be -2. And from 4 to 2, it is also going to be -2. So we can go ahead and say that our y value here is equal to -2. So now we are ready to write down the slope, right? So remember that the slope is y over x. So we can go ahead and say that m is equal to y. Your y is -2, and then your x is 1. Therefore, the slope is -2 divided by 1 is going to be -2. So your slope is -2. All right. So now let's try. I want you to try number 8. All right. So let's start it together. I hope you get it correct. All right. So how can we get from 2 to 5? To get from 2 to 5, you notice that we have to do what? Right? We have to take away. You have to subtract. You actually have to add 3 from. You have to add 3, right? So we have to add 3, right? And then from 5 to 8, we have to also add 3. To get from 8 to 11, you also have to add 3, right? So you notice that your x value over here is, this is your x value we just find here, which is 3, right? So now let's check for y side. How can we get from 0 to 3, which is exactly the same thing, +3, right? From 3 to 6 is also +3, and from 6 to 9 is also +3. So this is the y axis over here. This is our y value over here. We can see that our y value is 3, right? So therefore, my slope is going to be y over x, which is 3 over 3, which is equal to 1. So I could say that my slope is equal to 1. Now let's try the next example, right? So the next example is pretty straightforward, right? How can we get from -3 to 1? To get from -3 to 1, we have to add 2, right? When you see -3 to +2, you see that you get -1, right? So meaning that from here to there, you get, you have to add +2, right? So we are gonna be doing the same thing here, right? How can we get from -1 to 2? So you see that from -1 to 2, you will get 1. So therefore, you have to add +2 here, right? And then we have to also do the same here. You'll see that it's +2. Therefore, my x value is 1, right? So if you are solving something like that, you see that, hey, when you get if you get like a different number, right? If you get like a different number, meaning that your rate is different, right? If the rate changes, meaning that there's no slope, right? Let's say, for instance, say that you get a 3 over here, right? The slope, there wouldn't be any slope here, right? So you wouldn't be able to say that your x value is 2, right? So now let's try this one now. So how can we get from 4 to 9, right? You already see that we have to add 5, and from 9 to 14, we also have to add 5, and from 14 to 19, we also have to add 5. So therefore, our y is equal to 5. So we'll see the same thing. If you find either x or y or different, meaning that there's no slope, right? So we can go ahead and see that my slope is 5 over 2, right? Which is y over x. All right. Thanks for watching.